a diplomatic turnaround, we can say, that we are seeing happening in Canada. And this clearly implies that tensions clearly would ease going forward between India and Canada. Canadian authorities have now said that there is no evidence linking India to any covert operations or acts of repression on Canadian soil. It's being seen as a big U-turn from the Trudeau era, because at that time there were strong allegations against India. Now the Canadian police chief has clarified that claims around so-called India-linked agents are not backed by any proof. This marks a clear shift in the stance that Canada has so far taken against India. Joining us on the broadcast right now are my colleagues. We have Bhavtosh as well as Siddharth live with us. We also have with us RSN Singh, who is an author. Good afternoon to all of you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on this very important story emerging from Canada. Bhavtosh, to you first. It's a big statement coming in from a Canadian top cop. Because so far, during the Trudeau era, we have seen how Canada has always accused India of interference, of transnational repression. But now the top cop of Canada making it absolutely clear that there has been no link whatsoever between Indian government, Indian agents, and the crimes, the violent crimes that have been taking place in Canada.
Yes, Sina, in fact, 2.5 years later, Canada has admitted that there is no credible evidence against Indian officials who are there in Canada. And in fact, the RCMP chief, or the chief of their federal police, have said that the Canadian people should not be worried about these things. Remember, it was in September 2023 that on the floor of House, the then Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, had said that he has credible evidence, quote unquote, against Indian government that their agents were responsible for the killing of designated terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Now, the fact is that no such evidence was ever given by Trudeau's administration to India, and India repeatedly told Canada that such evidence should be shared with them. Importantly, the diplomatic relations went so low that India had to recall its ambassador and other senior officials. There were death threats that were given directly to them by Gurpatwant Singh Pannu and his henchmen, primarily because of the fact that Canada was encouraging them to do so. There used to be regular protests outside Indian diplomatic mission and the officials' residence, and Trudeau continuously maintained that such evidence has been shared with India. The fact is that no such evidence was shared. Only individuals who allegedly were linked to Lawrence Bishnoi gang were arrested, and the trial has still not yet started. What has happened between 2025-2026 is there is a regime change in Canada, and importantly, the NSA of both the countries have met. They have in fact cleared many of the doubts that people had in the two countries, and one can clearly see that the same RCMP chief who in October 2024 has said that Lawrence Bishnoi is an agent of Indian government has now admitted that no such evidence is there in which there could be a direct threat to Canadian citizen.
A lot has really changed, Siddharth, between 2024 and 2026 when we are talking about this big U-turn by Canadian top cop there. But, it also exposes Justin Trudeau and his agenda against India, how he had a clear vision to, just spread Khalistani propaganda. And all of that has been demolished today. And ever since we saw Mark Carney taking the top office in Canada, the signals were always there that this could lead to resetting of ties.
Absolutely. Mark Carney, after he took over, he sent very early indications that he was very keen on recalibrating Canada's ties with India. And even before he made his visit to India in the month of February, there were indications from the highest echelons of the Canadian government that they were going to revisit their stance as far as the entire Hardeep Singh Nijjar episode was concerned. One of their senior officials had spoken to a Canadian newspaper, Toronto Star, basically claiming that there was no evidence linking India vis-a-vis the investigations into Hardeep Singh Nijjar's death. And that's now been confirmed and reiterated by none other than the RCMP chief himself. But what this effectively does is this marks a victory for Indian diplomacy, because India's stand has always been consistent that it had absolutely nothing to do with those series of events in Canada. It also accused Justin Trudeau and his government at that point in time directly of providing patronage to Khalistani elements in Canada. And what Mark Carney and the current Liberal establishment under him have effectively done, Hina, is to metaphorically throw Justin Trudeau by the wayside, completely sideline him. Because remember, back then the same RCMP was holding press conferences trying to implicate India in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. They were drawing a link between the Indian government and the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. They made public statements directly trying to implicate India. All that has now been retracted. So effectively, Justin Trudeau has been labelled a liar in the eyes of the current Liberal dispensation led by Mark Carney.
Absolutely, and in front of the entire world as well, because the world is also watching the developments very, very closely. It is extremely important. Stay on with us, all of you. If we have some more updates we would like to share with our viewers on this story. Remember, viewers, earlier, Justin Trudeau had stated that Canadian security agencies are investigating credible allegations linking agents of the Indian government to the June 2023 murder of Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar in British Columbia. Listen in.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Mr. Arasan Singh, what is your understanding? What perhaps led to this kind of a U-turn?
One is, of course, the change in dispensation. More than any other reason, Trudeau was known to be pathologically anti-India. And it was something that he inherited from his father. And, well, I would say that he was one of the architects of, what should I say, this entire Khalistan patronage by the Western countries along with the USA. And it was during his tenure and around that the first case of aviation terrorism in the world took place, where an Air India aircraft was targeted. So when he inherited that background, and I remember you just showed a clip of the Canadian Parliament, but I remember on another occasion he could not vindicate all his allegations against India. And he completely overlooked the fact that whatever is happening in Canada, or whatever happened in Canada, it was an internecine warfare between the various groups that these countries had provided patronage to. And the ISI's proxy wing outside the country was most active in Canada. Most of these groups were and are funded by Pakistan's ISI, something which is not lost out on any Canadian politician. Now, what has happened is that, of course, apart from regime change that has taken place there, remember that, when your profile is considered to be weak or low profile, countries tend to take you for granted and use all these proxy instruments. But it is also, this U-turn is also because of India's current geopolitical heft that you enjoy. Both you saw our standing and stature during the Ukraine-Russia conflict, which is yet not over, and now the West Asian crisis.
Right.
So this is something the Canada cannot ignore.
Absolutely. And we are seeing, the new leadership there also responding in the same manner. Remember when Mark Carney visited India earlier this year, he did not visit Punjab. So that was also a big message. Thank you very much, all of you. Appreciate you joining us with your perspective on this big story of the day. Heading into a very short break right now. We'll be back with lots more. Don't go anywhere.